Welcome to Real Time Recorded. This is week 46 of 2021. Hello, Zeus. How are you?
Hey, Dave. How you been? You're still in Europe,
Still in Europe, enjoying a Friday afternoon. I guess it's Friday morning for you, but Friday afternoon here in Europe, my last Friday here, and heading back to world headquarters after this. So,
yeah.
Interesting week.
We went from Spain to America during the Thanksgiving week, so that's interesting.
There you go. It's yeah. Hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Quite the pilgrimage, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. This week we had a couple announcements. Let's see. We had BCM One acquired CoreDial. I didn't really see that one coming. Did you see that, Zeus?
I did not see that coming, but I guess there's already been some consolidation in the wholesale space, so maybe we should have seen something like this coming, right?
So CoreDial has obviously been around for a while, and I guess BCM One has been around for a while. But BCM One has been, I think they've done like 7 acquisitions now, and both companies are in the wholesale or private label UCaaS solutions. BCM One also acquired SkySwitch, which is their main platform. I think, and I'm not 100% sure, I think CoreDial is still using BroadWorks. At least they were using BroadWorks at one point. I saw a note from Catherine Trebnick that suggested that it's all going to move over to SkySwitch, which benefits NetSapiens, which was acquired by Crescendo. So lots of acquisitions going on in this space, and just a tremendous amount. Let's see. Other wholesalers in this space have also been busy. Alianza recently acquired Counterpath, the soft phone company, and Intermedia, which just announced a new version of their UCaaS offer, acquired Telax, and of course their new offer combines UC and CC together. I think 2600 Hertz has not been acquired by anybody. Of course, Cisco BroadWorks still around, BroadCloud still around. Any thoughts on the wholesale space, Zeus?
Well, it's not a very exciting space, but it certainly is a necessary one, right? There's a lot of smaller, tier 2 providers out there that have pretty good brands that serve local areas that need to evolve, modernize their offering. And there's 2 ways to do it. One is they can drop a bunch of money and, upgrade everything, or they can just use one of these wholesale providers, and that seems to be the preferred methodology for it. So,
we often talk about Microsoft versus Cisco and these big name brands, but a lot of companies are going with ZK's UCaaS, and if you got a local provider that knocks on your door and says they'll take care of it, that could be pretty attractive.
Yeah, well, there's a ton of rural areas in this country that are serviced by local telcos, and this is the ideal market for that. So it's like I said, it's not. It's not the flashy market that gets a lot. That you don't see these guys on Kramer and stuff all the time. But it's certainly a necessary one, and I think a problem there has been too many suppliers, and so the consolidation of the space is, it's probably long overdue. So it creates a healthier market to having some consolidation in the space, and that's good for everybody.
In other news, we had Genesys made a big announcement around Google Cloud partnership. It's actually kind of interesting. They've been working with Google for quite some time. This is the multi-cloud division. So multi, they've done AWS, they've had Google for a while, but they've actually upped the innovation or the partnership to joint selling and co-innovation. I'm not exactly sure how deep that goes, but that's a pretty interesting development. They basically re-announced their multi-cloud and their support for Google CCAI. And I think it was about a month ago when Google Chrome announced a partnership with the same division, the multi-cloud division of Genesys. So that partnership's getting quite a bit closer. Genesys Multi-Cloud, of course, remains available on AWS and Azure. But I don't know if you saw that outage. So this is not the best timing for Genesys, because the day they announced it, I think the very next day, Google Cloud had that big outage. I think it affected Spotify and Discord and Snapchat, and I'm sure others.
Yeah, well, all cloud providers have outages, and actually this is why the multi-cloud strategy is necessary. If designed correctly, you can withstand that because you'd fail over to another cloud provider, right? And so I think, we really haven't had, and this is part of my Enterprise Connect presentation this year on the topic of distributed clouds, where we in the we up until recently, we really haven't had multi-cloud. We had multiple clouds being used, but what was running in Azure is different than what's running in AWS, which is different than running in GCP. Now, actually, a company like Genesys can actually take their stack and they can run it across the three and almost treat it like a fabric. And then if there's an outage in one, it can fail over to the other. So it protects their customers quite a bit. And so I think Genesys was really the first, I think, of the cloud providers to really go aggressive after multi-cloud architecture. And I think it'll be, in fact, if you're not doing that, you really have to, ask your provider why. Even if you're running your own data centers, there's no reason why you can't use one of these as, sort of a backup and stuff. So I think, kudos to Genesys for actually, being aggressive with this concept of multi-cloud, because it's still, for all the talk of multi-cloud, like I said, we really haven't had multi-cloud, but now with, the cloud native architectures, it actually becomes easier. So.
Yeah, and I think it's an important point you raised about all cloud providers are still having outages, and so it was just awkward timing. But yeah, I think it reinforces the need for a multi-cloud strategy. So
I think I saw AWS highlight that quite a bit. So and actually the thousandized data from Cisco is pretty interesting too, because it always points out when cloud providers have outages. But it's funny too, because they all have outages from time to time. And when they do, it's like the worst thing in the world. And but that's why, again, a multi-cloud strategy actually can help mitigate against this. So.
Okay, then lastly, Slack had their Slack Frontiers this week. Wasn't as exciting as I'd hoped. It was pretty minor in my opinion. To be fair, they just had Dreamforce, and to be fair, they were just acquired like weeks before Dreamforce, so I'm sure it's been pretty busy at Slack. They made just a few announcements, really. They announced their workflow builder, and I'm sure this got you excited, Zeus, because this is one of your favorite topics, the low-code, no-code stuff. But they basically added a drag-and-drop interface to their existing workflow builder. Slack's always been real strong around workflow integrations. The difference now is that you don't need to be a developer to do this. They have these, what they're calling reusable building blocks, so that anyone can build workflows. Part of the low-code, no-code, and I know you've got a lot of opinions on that.
Yeah, I think this is – I didn't actually attend the event, but actually I think this is one of the more interesting trends to come to communications maybe in the last decade or so, because we've gone through this transformation in the industry where your UC or CC stack was a vertically integrated software stack. You basically just took what you had on-prem and you pushed it into the cloud. And then we went a little more cloud native, and that allowed the cloud providers to actually become a lot more agile and do constant updates. And you see that from all of them now, right? That's why Cisco could do 1,000 updates or whatever they did this year. But I think the next step in that journey is allowing businesses to create almost customized views of their product, or customized workflows and things like that. And that's what the low-code, no-code interface does. And so, Slack especially is a tool that many businesses consider mission critical. It's the system of record for a lot of applications. Companies build workflows around it. And so the data that's in there and the information that's in there is used for more than just messaging back and forth, right? And so this new low-code, no-code interface lets line of business people actually create their own workflows through a drag-and-drop interface without having to ask ask the developer. And it's interesting that Jeff Lawson's book, right, from Twilio, Ask Your Developer. It should really that in some ways it kind of needs an update. It's ask your developer for some things, but through these type of interfaces you can do it yourself, right? So it almost should be
that's the guy next to you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you made that point about chat app. I mean, people often consider Slack a chat app, but it's big difference between itself and other chat apps is their focus on workflow, which is so important to that Slack community. A couple other announcements from Slack Frontiers was they've upgraded they will be upgrading Slack Connect to support 250 organizations on one channel. That's becoming quite the party line. I mean, I remember when they first announced Slack Connect, it was just one other organization. And I thought, one organization, that's not going to work very well. So they've been adding and increasing that number for quite some time. And now they just announced 250, which again is another big difference between Slack and the many other chat apps, is how well it works with external organizations.
Think of the complicated nested threads you could have, though, with 250 guests coming in into Slack.
250 organizations. It didn't say about how many guests. Yeah. You could get pretty crazy there, I'm sure. Let's see. They also created, back to workflow, a new feature where you can subscribe to and notifications, which of course they've always had, but you can subscribe to third-party notifications now. So they're really positioning Slack around that portal to work. This is where you get all your work done and all your communications done between Slack Connect and notifications. I think that's really good. And then the last theme that they brought up, and that was kind of similar to the Dreamforce theme, which makes sense since it was so recent, but they're really pushing the digital HQ theme. I have to say I really like this. I dissected Stuart's keynote at Dreamforce on talkingpoints.com in a post called What Stuart Said. But basically what he's talking about was what the rest of the industry is using the term hybrid office about. But they call it digital HQ, and I really like the way they describe it, that, work has changed. The pandemic has changed the way we work, and we have to think everything is digital first. And once you start thinking that way, Slack becomes much more central to the way a lot of organizations get their work done.
Yeah, like I said, I missed the event, but it's good to see Slack continue its innovation. I think a lot of people were worried that buried inside Salesforce would just become part of the Salesforce toolkit. So I think if Salesforce is smart, and it looks like they're going to do this, they're going to let it run standalone as well as being part of Salesforce. So I did want to give one more quick shout out. I know we normally cover 3 stories, but I got to host TalkDesk Digital Showdown this week, which I thought was a pretty interesting event. That they had 6 companies that are their app partners competing for some charitable donation money. So I was happy to do it because all the prize money goes to charity. But the winning company was called AirKit, and it actually followed along the lines of what Slack's doing. They created a low-code, no-code interface for people to be able to drag and drop and create their own customer service apps. And so the person that was doing the demo, they created in like a couple of minutes, they created an app that insurance companies could use to take pictures, send notes, things like that. And so congratulations to AirKit. But I think it's just Dave, this low-code, no-code trend, I think we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg here. And I think this is going to be great for the entire UCCC industry because, we're going to get more line of business interest in these products where historically it's been primarily an IT buy. And when you do that, now all of a sudden there's more value for everybody, right? So I think we're really hitting that inflection point now. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, that event actually looked really interesting. I'm glad you got to do that. We're going to have a similar event to that. Yours was associated directly with TalkDesk. The one I'm talking about is going to be associated with Enterprise Connect 2021 and hasn't actually been announced yet, so I'm going to announce it right here. But the Innovation Showcase, which we do every year, which attempts to profile and introduce companies for the first time to the Enterprise Connect audience. So we're looking for companies that haven't exhibited at Enterprise Connect. But the theme this year is customer engagement. And we're looking for innovative companies that are doing interesting things in customer engagement. And I've got my judges lined up. I've got Sheila McGee-Smith. I've got Art Scholler. And I've got Beth English. And so the 3 of them will be evaluating companies that apply for this. And we'll hopefully have about 5 or 6 companies in the showcase in March in Orlando at Enterprise Connect 2021.
Well, there's no shortage of companies in that space, though. So I think narrowing it down to 5 or 6 might be difficult.
Well, again, the key criteria is they can't have exhibited at Enterprise Connect, and so it'll be it does eliminate quite a few. But yes, I think it'll be a really good showcase.
And live,
and hopefully most of those companies that were in your event will apply. So we'll see. So that wraps up this episode of Real Time Recorded. Thanks for watching. And
next week's Thanksgiving, so we probably won't do it, right? So have a good Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving. And so we'll take a week off, and we'll be back in December. We're approaching the end of the year.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Thanks.
Right.